Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Spire Sports Show. I'm your host, Tyler, along with my co-host, Giggs, and we're going to bring you the game previews for each single game this week, except not the Monday night game because we'll talk about that on Sunday. So this is going to be all the Sunday games, all the previews. We're going to kind of break it down, give you some good plays, and let's just get into it because we got a lot of stuff that we're going to cover within these videos here. So first thing that we're going to talk about is the relevant player news. So these games right now are the New Orleans, Detroit, Seattle, Miami, Los Angeles, Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Minnesota. Actually, let me double check that. Minnesota, Houston. So not the Baltimore. That'll be the next one. So Seattle right now. Jamal Adams is out. Chris Carson's a game time decision. They said so. Carlos Hyde is also questionable, and on the Dolphins side, there's really not much injury news here. Byron Jones is out, so another upgrade for the Seattle wide receivers here in this one. New Orleans, let's talk about a couple of these. Marshawn Lattimore is out. Janoris Jenkins out. So their top two cornerbacks are both out for this game. Marcus, I believe it, DeMarcus, I forget what his first name is. Davenport is out, so he's not. He hasn't made his 2020 debut this season. So that's kind of a big thing for their pass rush. Good boost for the Lions offense. Cook is out, and so is Michael Thomas in this game. Lions Trufant is also, he's questionable. Their cornerback. I don't know if he's going to play. Check back tomorrow. We'll see if he plays. Going to the next game, the Los Angeles Chargers. Mike Williams out. Do you still own him? No. Get rid of him. Tyrod Taylor's out, so Herbert's going to start. Bucks Fournette's out, so that upgrades. We'll talk about him. Ronald Jones. Godwin's out. Scotty Miller's questionable. Looks like he's going to play, though. For Baltimore, Jimmy Smith right now is questionable. Still, that defense is going to kill him. This one's big, so you need to check it tomorrow. And that's Scary Terry McLaurin. Questionable, was added late, did not practice 2 days in a row when he was added late. So game time decision. And then the last one we'll talk about is Minnesota. Both of their starting cornerbacks are out. Mike Hughes, Chris Boyd, both out. So already a terrible secondary. It gets better for Houston. And then on Houston side, nobody really worth mentioning in this one. So let's start with our first game here. We got Seattle versus Miami. Players that we like here. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Devontae Parker. I think this is a really good spot for Devontae Parker, and I think this is the game that really breaks out, kind of gets to where he was last year. Right now, Shaquille Griffin and Trey Flowers have given up 16 catches on 21 targets for 269 yards this year. Griffin's catch rate he's given up 77% of the balls thrown his way. Trey Flowers is 80%. So it's pretty bad right now. And Devontae Parker had 5 catches for 69 yards at the 10-minute mark of the third quarter of last night's Thursday night football game, or last week's. So, and if you watch that game, it was a blowout. They didn't really need to throw the ball, and he had 5 catches for 69 yards at the 10-minute mark. This secondary in Seattle is terrible. Right now, he's the 20th priced wide receiver on FanDuel at 6,500. I believe that he's a very solid play this week, maybe pushing like top 10 numbers here. So I believe he's going to have a really good week this week. And then I'll also talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick. Right now, Seattle, they're missing Jamal Adams, which actually really isn't that bad because Jamal Adams he's been pretty bad this year, honestly, in coverage, especially in coverage. So you have Ryan Fitzpatrick with a pretty good receiving core, Mike Gesicki, who he's playing out of the slot a little bit this year, so it's actually pretty good because I don't know how much of Bobby Wagner he's going to see, and Bobby Wagner has been really good in coverage this year, so it'll be interesting matchup. But they should. The only thing that's kind of scaring me about Fitzpatrick is he's due for one of those implode games, right? Just one of those games he throws 4 interceptions. I don't think it's this week, but hey, you never know. I think he's a really good play. Seattle has the worst pressure rate in the league right now, 25%, tied with the Jets. Has a very good receiving core, like I said, and a good receiving back. So they should be down early. He should have to throw the ball a lot, so I like Ryan Fitzpatrick this week. And Giggs, is there anybody that you want to talk about in this segment?
No, you pretty much hit All the players I would talk about, anyone who has relevance. Maybe Preston Williams, just because I'm a homer. But yeah, Parker, Gesicki, Preston Williams, anyone who catches balls for Miami, I'd fire up.
And I didn't even bother talking to Seattle about Seattle because you're starting all of them anyways. There's no way you're sitting any of them, especially in this matchup. Not worth talking about because they're just you put them in your lineup, you don't have to worry about it. So the next part we're going to talk about for this game, Seattle Miami game. Favorite bet. My favorite bet of the game right now is uh, Devontae Parker, 4.5 catches. I like the over. He's done that twice already this season. The only time he hasn't done that is against Stephon Gilmore for New England. So obviously it's a really tough matchup, and he caught four catches in that game. So I like his odds here, and the odds right now, they did go up. Last I saw it was minus 105, so it was minus 102 when I got it, so it's kind of going up. So I like the odds. I think he catches 6 balls in this game, goes right around 100 yards. Um, Giggs, what do you have a favorite bet for this game?
Yeah, Seattle right now is sitting at -5.5. I would take that in a heartbeat. I think they can easily beat Miami by a touchdown. So
Mm-hmm.
I like Seattle to cover. And the over under is 54.5. I could also see the over in that. I could see Seattle putting up a lot of points, and I could see Miami also getting it done through the air.
I agree. Should be one of the highest scoring games on the slate. So let's go on to the next one. Players to keep an eye on. Now, this one was kind of hard. These are guys that I'm looking like near 15%. Really, in this game, there's really nobody to talk about. The only person that I would say going forward, Gaskins, he's looked really good, and each week he's kind of getting more and more work. In this game, they should be down, so I'd like him a lot in PPR weeks or in PPR leagues, especially with right now. You might have Kansas City and New England not playing this week. You already have Pittsburgh and Tennessee not playing. So right now, I think that he could be a top 15, even a top 15 play. I don't think that's out of the question, especially in PPR leagues, where I think he's going to catch a lot of passes. He's been heavily involved in the pass game, so he's somebody I like, and really that's about it because everybody else is going to be rostered. So there's no one to really talk about in this one. And then quick fire, some start and sits. These ideally, what we're going to be talking about are guys that you may have both of these people on your team. So you may be thinking to yourself, do I sit? Do I start this person? So that's kind of what we're hoping with. So if it's not the exact people, go look at some rankings. Uh, I would use Pro Football or not Pro Football, Fantasy Pros. They kind of take the rankings from a lot of different people and compile them. So that's what I would use. So right now, Devontae Parker or Tyler Boyd. Right now, my opinion, I like Parker. I think he's a borderline top 10 play this week. Mike Gesicki or Hayden Hurst. Gigs, do you have one for that one? Who would you rather have?
I would definitely go Mike Gesicki. I just love the matchup against Seattle.
Agreed. Gaskin or Mark Ingram. This one's interesting because we'll talk about the uh, Baltimore game later. But I like Gaskin just because of his PPR potential, and I think Baltimore crushes him and he doesn't have to play the second half. Fitzmagic or Goff? Who would you take for that one, Gigs?
I would go Goff personally
I
against the
think it's close
Giants.
for me. Yeah, that's not too bad either. Last one here would be Chris Carson or Mike Davis. Obviously, if Chris Carson plays, for this one, it's really close. I might go Carson just because I'm a homer. But hey, Mike Davis has looked really good, so I don't fault you there. I would go Chris Carson because I don't think he's truly that injured. I think he'll be good to go. I've been getting a lot of questions about should I start Will Fuller over him. Will Fuller to me is also like this borderline top 10 play this week. Minnesota's without their top starting cornerbacks. They've already been a terrible defense, passing secondary as is. So now they're down their starting cornerbacks this week. Yes, I'll take Will Fuller. This is to me like a get right kind of game. So I like this game for him. He's a must start. He's 6,100 on FanDuel right now, 22nd price wide receiver. So it's a very good price, something that's easy to get to. Next person I'm going to talk about is Justin Jefferson. Now, for this one, it's hard because I don't know if Bradley Roby's going to shadow Thielen or if he's going to shadow Justin Jefferson. And I think he's probably going to go Thielen because he's more of a slot corner, and that's where Thielen sees a lot of his work. So I think he's going to go Shadow Thielen. So then that means Justin Jefferson's now going to get Hargraves, who Hargraves has been abused. And Justin Jefferson last week was the top-rated wide receiver by Pro Football Focus. So Hargraves, these are his stats, right? Last week gave up 6 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown against Pittsburgh. Week 1, now week 2, I forget who they played Baltimore, which Baltimore didn't even throw the ball that many times because they just ran it down their throats. But Kansas City, he gave up 5 catches for 43 yards and a score. So it's not looking too good for him this week. I really like Justin Jefferson. I think he can abuse this matchup as long as Cousins can get him the ball. That's the biggest thing. So next thing that we're going to talk about are the favorite bet of the game. And this is, I'm going back to Jefferson, 48.5. I think he's going to get 48.5. I really hope it's going to be against Hargrave here because I like that matchup so much. So 48.5, I'll take the over. What about you, Giggs? What are some of your favorite bets for this game?
I like the over in this one. It's 53.5. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring. I think it's going to be a big Dalvin Cook day. I think it's going to be a get-right game for Deshaun Watson. And I think Will Fuller is going to have a big game himself. So if you're looking at player props, my favorite would be Deshaun Watson rushing touchdown or Dalvin Cook anytime rushing touchdown.
What are the odds for that one for Dalvin Cook?
Minnesota, for Dalvin Cook anytime touchdown. I'm guessing it's minus odds, but if I'm sure it's not it's probably not more than like minus 110, 120.
Okay.
I just think that he's good for a touchdown every week.
Yeah.
Like he's likely to hit that just as much as like the yards.
Especially in this one.
Oh yeah, I think it's gonna be a high scoring game. I think Deshaun Watson could also throw for like 3 or 4. I don't know if David Johnson's going to punch any in, but I hope not. I'm playing Cruz. Inside joke.
All right, let's go to the next one. This is less than 15% owned. There's really none in this one. The only people that I would talk about, I know last week I talked about Cobb, how I didn't really like how much he was added. But in this game, he's got a really good matchup. So if you have Cobb, if you have Brandon Cooks, right, these are 2 people that are playable this week because like we talked about, Deshaun Watson should go off in this game. This should be a high-scoring game, and Houston should just abuse the secondary. So I like any of those guys. If you need somebody to start, those 2 wouldn't be bad plays for this week. And then a quick little start and sit, Fuller or Tyler Boyd. I'd probably go with Fuller because I think he's also due for one of those just Fuller games where he goes 100 yards and like 3 touchdowns, right? So I think this is one of those games that he's going to go off now. I don't know about all that, but he's going to go off this game. Michael Gallup, I would definitely go Fuller. Like these are guys who are ranked right around each other right now, so definitely Fuller in my opinion. Jefferson or AJ Green, I'd probably go Jefferson. And then the next one would be Scantling. And me, I'm not a believer in Scantling. I don't even care if Devontae Adams doesn't play this week. Like a lot of people are big on him, but when he's had this opportunity before, he hasn't delivered. So I don't like Scantling this week. David Johnson or Ronald Jones, for me, David Johnson has a really good matchup this week, but I'd probably go David Johnson. But it's really close because I do like Ronald Jones's opportunity. And then the last one would be Cooks or Scaling. And even for this one, I'd probably even go Cooks because I don't like Scaling at all. And that's probably such a backwards thing. People are probably like, what are you talking about? He's such a good play. No, I really don't think he's a good play. So let's go ahead and talk about our next slate of games. Let's talk about this slate. There's some injury news that I want to talk about here. So this right now is going to be Arizona, Carolina, Indianapolis, Chicago, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Dallas, and Cleveland. So let's talk about some key injury news. You have Hopkins, who said he's going to be a game time decision. He knows his body the best. He's going to make the decision whether he plays or not. Something to keep your eye on and on Sunday morning. Christian Kirk, I think, is going to play. Something to monitor tomorrow as well. DJ Chark's going to play. Odell, he practiced in full, so he's going to play. Kareem Hunt, I believe, is going to play as well. Was questionable, but I think he practiced fully on Friday, so I think he's going to play. Khalil Mack is questionable. I think he's going to play as well. Michael Pittman, I think he was placed on IR, so he's out this game. So let's go ahead and get into the first game here. So this is going to be Arizona and Carolina. My favorite place for this game, Mike Davis. I mean, if you have Mike Davis right now and you picked him up, good for you because he's been a pretty good play. And I think this week he's just going to be a good play as well. 17 targets, which is actually 16th amongst all players right now the past 2 weeks. 17 targets for a running back. And one of those weeks was basically just one half of a football game. So saw 23 opportunities last week. That's targets on top of runs. That's like opportunity. That's number one running back, number one potential right there. Not number one overall, but RB1 like back end. 23 opportunities. That's crazy. So I think this is a defense, and actually their linebacking core has been terrible covering running backs out of the backfield this year. So that doesn't bode well for them for a guy who's seen 17 targets past 2 weeks. I think he has a lot of targets in this game, and I think he's definitely a very good play this week. DJ Moore is another person that I want to talk about. Not only is he a good in season long leagues this year, but in FanDuel right now he's 6,800, 14th price wide receiver. I like him a lot in this game against Patrick Peterson. Patrick Peterson. This is an old Patrick Peterson right now. The Cards right now, both of their cornerbacks rank 70 in the 70s right now out of Pro Football Focus. Like they're rated right now, I believe in the 40s, both of them. Patrick Peterson. So out of 100 quarterbacks, they're in the what is that, like 30% below, like whatever. They're in the 70s right now, so it's terrible. They're both giving up a lot of plays to wide receiver. DJ Moore is a stud. Even Robbie Anderson, I like both of them in this matchup. I think they're both good plays. So my favorite bet of the game is actually DJ Moore 60.5 over. I'm going to say the over 65.5 over. I like him in this game. I think he's going to have one of those games where he's going to go for over 100 yards in this game. It's going to be a high scoring game, and I expect him to get over that. So what about you, Giggs? Some of your favorite bets or maybe a good play that you like in this game?
Yeah, I think even without Hopkins, I think Arizona is going to get this. They're going to get it done. So I like money line at 164 odds. Um, as far as a player prop, I didn't see. Is there Robbie Anderson player prop?
I don't know. I know for some of them they didn't
I think
have him
he's
on there. I
I think
don't
he's
think he
good
was
for 5 or 6
on.
catches. So the coach in Carolina is the one who recruited Robbie Anderson at Temple. I think I mentioned that on a different show, but I just think there's a rapport, and I think he's better than Curtis Samuel, and they just
Mhm.
paid him. So I think Arizona, like you said, I don't think their pass defense is any good. So their defensive line's not bad. I think they have a decent pass rush. Um, but if you're looking for fantasy production at the wide receiver position, Carolina wide receivers in this game are my favorite.
Okay. Let's go to our less than 15% owned. Somebody that you obviously have to keep on your radar. This is if like Christian Kirk is out again or DeAndre Hopkins. What happens with him? Is Andy and Isabella had a pretty good week last week. Sure, he only had 40, I think like 46 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. But he's somebody that if you're desperate and one of these guys is out, I think he's a decent play this week. About the only guy that I would recommend, though, less than 50%. There's really nobody else in this game. Both teams, tight ends, not viable, so nobody really else in this game. So some rapid fire starts or sits. I have Mike Davis or Daryl Henderson, which is both of these are really good plays. Hopefully you can start both of them because I think they both have good weeks this week. But I would go Mike Davis in a PPR standard scoring. I would go Henderson because I think he'll have more rushing yards, possibly a touchdown. Where Mike Davis will just be a PPR machine this week. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. This one for me is tough. I think in a PPR league, I'd probably go Keenan Allen as well. Standard scoring. Moore, I think he'll have. But even I don't know. It's a toss up. Who would you pick, Giggs, for that one?
I expect Carolina to play from behind, so I think DJ Moore can have a really good game. I think I think they're a tough matchup, even though Keenan Allen got like 19 targets in one game. I mean,
Yeah,
if you get
last week.
peppered with 19 targets, you're gonna have a good game. So um, I want to lean towards DJ Moore in this one just because I really like the matchup.
Next one would be Teddy Bridgewater or Brady. I think, me personally, I'd probably go Bridgewater because I think they're going to be playing from behind, and I think he's going to have. He really hasn't been that bad this year. Like honestly, he's been pretty good. As fantasy wise, he's been pretty good. So I like Bridgewater this week. Drake or McKinnon? Who would you pick? I think I would obviously go Drake. Like I know some people are losing faith in Drake, but you also have to understand like he has a quarterback that runs the football, but he's going to have one of those games, and this may be one of those games against a Carolina team that's been terrible defensively. So I think obviously you got to go Drake here. McKinnon's also a good play though. So let's go to the next game: Indianapolis versus Chicago. So let's talk about some of the favorite plays of this game. We have Jonathan Taylor. For me, one of my favorite plays. I know I didn't say I was going to pick the obvious people here, but some people are like, oh, Jonathan Taylor is playing Chicago. Who cares, right? The dude had 42 touches in the last two games, 42 touches, and they had a blowout in week 2 where I think he only had like 15 touches. So they destroy the Jets, obviously. Right now, they have a 48% offensive line advantage in the run game. So they should be able to run the ball. He's going to see a ton of runs. Chicago's good, right? But this is the best offensive line in football with Indianapolis. So best way to beat a pass rush. What's the best way? The best way is to run the football or quick little throws. So I also think he might be a little bit involved more than he has been in the passing game for this one. And I think it's going to be a competitive game. So I think they might have to throw a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see. But I don't get cute here. Start him no matter what. Another person I like is Montgomery. Montgomery last week when Cohen went out, he was playing those 2-minute offensive snaps. So that's huge because he wasn't that involved in the passing game this last year. Now with Cohen out for the season, he's a great play this week. I like, especially on FanDuel, where I think he is priced at 5,600 right now. Don't quote me on the exact price, but it's something crazy like that. So I think for right now in FanDuel, DFS, he's a very good play this week for the amount of work he's probably going to get. He's going to get true bell cow um, touches here. Now it is a tough matchup, but for somebody like that who's getting that amount of touches for and price that low, 100% he's a good play this week. One of the top plays. Well, I wouldn't say top plays, but top 15 at the running back position. He'd be higher if it wasn't such a tough matchup. Let's do some of our favorite bets. For me personally, T.Y. Hilton, 53 and a half right now. I like the under for that. I don't think T.Y. Hilton, I don't think this is a very good spot for T.Y. Hilton. This is a pretty good secondary. I don't like the matchups, and I think this is going to be a game where they're going to tell, hey, River, just be safe with the football as much as you can. So I don't expect a lot of deep throws here. So I like the under on that one. What about you, Giggs? Any that you like in this game?
I honestly hate this game. I just have some good notes on this game. Frank Rich, he is I guess you could say he was the guy who groomed Nick Foles. He found Nick Foles. He groomed Nick Foles. So that's just a little, tidbit to keep in mind that he knows how this guy works. He knows him in and out. So it's not like Nick Foles is going to surprise the Colts this Sunday. And the Colts, like you said, they have a great offensive line. So even though Chicago's very good on defense, I think the Colts can still get it done if Phillip Rivers just doesn't fuck it up.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be the key of the game. Philip, just play it safe, and that's why I think Jonathan Taylor's going to have, like the 1 week, I believe it was Minnesota, had like nearly 30 touches. I think it's going to be the same for this. So let's go to the under 15%. This one's not too bad because we have a couple of players here to work with. The one would be Zach Pascal. Now, I just said Philip Rivers is going to be playing it safe, which he is, but at least this is somebody who's 15% who should see the field a lot with Campbell and obviously Pittman out. So this is somebody who's going to see the field. He's also going to be playing in the slot where Buster screens in the slot. This is the best matchup. He's ranked 62nd out of 100 cornerbacks by Pro Football Focus, so it's a good spot for him. Now, is he going to have a big game? No, I don't think so. But at least he's somebody that, if you're desperate, right, this is somebody who you could probably add and might get a little bit of value out of him. I don't expect much, but it's at least something. 15% quarterback range. Nick Foles really it. He's right at 15%. Not an ideal matchup by any means, but he's proven to be effective in the past. He has good skill guys. He honestly has pretty good receiving core around him, especially with A-Rob, who he has a very difficult matchup in this one. Although A-Rob moves around and this is one thing that people are thinking, like he's going to be locked up against Xavier Rhodes. Xavier Rhodes stayed on one side of the field the entire season so far. Now he hasn't played a true number one yet, like as Robinson is, but Robinson also moves around the formation a lot, so I don't think he's going to see him that much. I actually think Darrell Mooney. So Robinson should have actually a pretty good game in this one. So I also saw some people freaking out about that. Play Robinson. You got to play him no matter what. I think he's going to have a decent game in this one as well. And the last one would be Darrell Mooney. Hey, you're hoping for the best if you're down here, scraping the bottom of the barrel. You're in a 14-team league, and you got all these players gone. This going to be somebody who's going to be playing opposite of Robinson. I think he's going to kind of be stuck on Xavier Rhodes, who's Xavier Rhodes right now is the number one cornerback in Pro Football Focus. So you're just hoping for the best. Throw him out there, hope for the best. We'll see what happens. And let's do a couple start and sits. Like Gig said, I really didn't like this one, breaking it down, trying to find some stats that I like because this game, from a fantasy perspective, I just don't like it. So start or sit, David Montgomery versus Henderson. I'd go Henderson just because I like Montgomery's season-long value here because he's going to be a bell cow. But in this one, it's going to be a really tough matchup. So I like Henderson. Graham or Mo Alley Cox? You got Jimmy Graham, Mo Alley Cox playing each other for this one. I like Mo Alley Cox just because it seems like he's kind of established this relationship with Philip Rivers. And once again, Philip Rivers, I think, is going to be told, hey, play it safe. Little, crossing routes for Mo Alley Cox this week. And you got to start both of the defenses in this game. Like, for me, 100% start both of these defenses. They're going to be good defensive plays this week. So with that one, let's continue on through our fast pace here. Let's go, baby. Let's fast. I'm talking fast. We're getting through this. So let's go to the next one. Jacksonville, Cincinnati, right? Jacksonville. Favorite plays of the game this week. James Robinson. James Robinson to me is still pretty like he's not priced correctly. I think he should be more in the 7,000 range, like low 7,000s. Right now he's at 6,600 for a guy who's seeing right around 20 touches a game. He's increasingly seeing a higher snap count each week and is getting more involved, and especially in the passing game. He's right now Pro Football Focus is fourth running back, graded fourth best running back. He's playing the league's worst rush defense this week. So to me, in all games this year, well, I don't know. I believe it's every single game this year. I don't know about the first week, but he's averaging over 100 scrimmage yards in each this week through 3 games. So 100 scrimmage yards. I don't know why his price still low. He might be a chalky play this week. But hey, I like him a lot this week. He looks great. He looks like a real running back. And Chark's back. So I think that's also going to upgrade this offense where last week they didn't play that well. And I think that had to do with Chark being out, not having a true number one wide receiver. So I think this offense is going to get better this week. Somebody else and Giggs, and I put in my notes here, AJ Green. He's a contrarian play, right? I'll say this about AJ Green. Right now, he's 8th in the league in targets on the year. 8th, okay? It hasn't been that pretty. He has a rookie quarterback, no offseason. It's definitely, in my opinion, has messed up the flow with this offense. Now, I think at some point AJ Green's going to have an AJ Green. Hey, and if you have him season long, you try to sell him as fast as you can. I think this is a good spot with Jacksonville, who's actually given up a lot to fantasy points to wide receivers this year. So, did you see what Parker and that offense did to them last week? I think he might have a decent game in this one. And as soon as he does, you try to sell him. That's my tip. Giggs, well, let me do the bets and then I'll let you talk here. Favorite bet of the game for me, Robinson, 64.5 rushing yards. I like the over in this. I think he goes against Tennessee, I believe it was. Yeah, he went for about right around 100. The first game of the season went over this as well. Last week, they were playing from behind. He only had 40-some rushing yards, so I like him in this one to go over. What about you, Giggs? Your favorite bets of this game?
I put a bet in on 10-3 at 12:13 a.m. Shows that I have a problem. But that's when Robinson was 61.5, and I thought that was a steal. So if it
Ooh,
only moved up 3, I still like that. I like the over. Joe Mixon was 72.5. I actually like the under. I know that's not being contrarian, but it's like I if his chest is hurting him and he's not 100% and he just hasn't gotten it done this year, I'm just gonna go ahead and say doesn't do it again. Then Tyler Boyd, I like over 59.5. I know we did would you rather have like Tyler Boyd, Will Fuller. I still think Boyd's going to have a good game, and I think Higgins will have a good game too. But Joe Burrow really likes his slot receivers. That's why Justin Jefferson had such a good year at LSU. He's a stud, but Joe Burrow really made sure he got the ball to him. So I like Tyler Boyd in this one over 59.5.
yeah, good call as well. And uh, somebody that I didn't talk about and I kind of wanted to talk about was obviously Tyler Boyd. But if you have him this week, you're playing him. He's going to be a good play this week. So, and one other play that I didn't talk about, and I actually didn't mention this in the injury news, is Joe Mixon because it just happened today. I made this up last night. So Joe Mixon, yes, he is questionable. Popped up on the injury report. They said he should go. But if you're Joe, if he's still there, which I feel like he's probably not, Giovanni Bernard, you should add him, especially if you need a play this week and hope that Joe Mixon doesn't play because he'd be, in my opinion, an RB2, somebody who's going to be playing all the snaps, running, catching, and that's been, Mixon's downfall this year. He's not that involved in the passing game where Gio kind of comes in and takes over. So Gio would be like an RB2 play this week. And he was going to be somebody I mentioned on the own plays. So under 15%, he's one of them. He's a must play if Mixon doesn't play this week, in my opinion. And then Drew Sample, yes, he did not have a very good week last week, but Jacksonville right now is giving up 73 yards to the tight end position. They're the fifth friendliest matchup against tight ends. Maybe he gets it done and you're a little bit desperate. Maybe you're a Travis Kelce owner and he's out there on the waiver or a free agent. I would plug him in. Fingers crossed, hope for the best. And that's also one thing I want to talk about as well. If you have um, Kansas City players, in my opinion, I think that you should sit them because I don't think that this game happens. I just don't think that this game happens, unfortunately. And I'd much rather play guys who are going to play for sure on Sunday rather than trying to hope that my guys are there for on Sunday or Monday night or Tuesday night. So that's just my opinion. We'll talk about that more a little bit at the end of this segment here. But let's go ahead and do some quick sits or starts. For me, James Robinson or David Johnson. For me, I love James Robinson. I love him this week. I'm playing him 100%, even over Gurley. Gurley would be another person playing up over them. Tyler Boyd and McLaurin. Now, obviously, if McLaurin plays, I'm going Tyler Boyd here because this is a tough matchup for McLaurin. So I like Tyler Boyd. AJ Green or Marvin Jones. Definitely Marvin Jones. I'm going to Marvin Jones for sure. Um, we'll do gigs. Joe Burrow or Stafford.
I'm going Stafford. I think the offense looks good with Galladay back, and he just diced up Arizona. I know it's a tougher matchup, but they're missing two deep backs, so let's go Stafford.
I'll do this last one. Minshew or Baker. Who would you go?
I like Baker. I think they're going to play from behind in this one, and I don't think Dallas's defense is as good as people make it sound. So maybe they're playing from behind, and OBJ and him can get it going. So I'm going to go Baker.
I agree. And that's going to go to our next game is Dallas versus Cleveland. So let's go ahead and talk about these favorite plays of this matchup. Obviously, once again, we're not talking about I guess it's kind of an obvious one, OBJ, but Nick Chubb, Hunt, play those guys. Right now, OBJ to me hasn't been, that great this year, right? To me, it's largely on part of Baker. Last week I talked about it. Baker should have had a touchdown, like a 30-yard touchdown to him last week. Just had to throw it to the corner of the end zone. It was a busted coverage. He was coming across the middle. The safety saw him late. And what did Baker do? He threw it in the middle of the field. It was such a stupid pass. Like, what are you doing, man? Just throw it to the corner of the end zone where he's running and he'll go and get the ball and it's easy touchdown. But he those in the middle of the field. I don't know. It was a terrible play. I tweeted about it. It was so bad. So, but OBJ, because this right now, Dallas defense has some injuries. The secondary has been pretty pathetic this year. So OBJ right now, he's moving all around the formation, plays A lot of his play right now, 50% of his routes where he's lining up is on the right side. So he's going to be matched up against Worley. That's where is playing right now. Worley ran a 4.640, right? He runs a 4.640, giving up a catch rate of 80%. Not good. I think OBJ, they kind of get the running game. Well, obviously, Cleveland's going to get the running game going. Some play action passes. I think he has a chance to beat Worley in this one, especially because I do think this is this the highest scoring game in the slate? I think this is the highest what they have for the over under right now. Might be the highest
Cleveland,
scoring.
Dallas is 56.5, and I think Atlanta and Green Bay is also 56 and
Yeah,
a half. Let me
those
check.
two are the highest scoring ones, I believe. Yes. So high scoring game right now. OBJ is ranked as priced as the 18th wide receiver on FanDuel at 6,600. Wide receiver that like that 6,600 range right now on FanDuel is just so good right now. I like those wide receivers, and then you can pay up to get the running backs. So he's somebody I also like on FanDuel. Another person I want to talk about, and this is somebody that I like on FanDuel as well, is CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb right now runs 90% of his passing play, lines up 90% of the time, runs 90% of his routes out of the slot, right? Right now, uh, Tavir, I believe, I don't know how to say his first name, Thomas, is Cleveland's slot corner right now. Right now, against Cincinnati, he gave up 9 for 10 catches for 69 yards. And against who was this against? The first game of the season, he gave up 4 for 5 for 45 yards. Oh, this was against just Tyler Boyd. So 4 for 5 for 45 yards. He's given up an 81% catch rate. Has allowed, or he runs a 4.6, a 4.6 right now. So CD should, in my opinion, should abuse him, right? He This is where CD's going to line up. I think this CD game because also on the outside you have Ward, and I think Ward's kind of a tough matchup. They also kind of do move um, Cooper around a little bit, but I think Gallup's kind of like the man out this game, and I think CD's going to have a big game. Right now he's priced at 5,600 on FanDuel. I like him this week. And let's go ahead in our favorite bets. For me, it's Zeke 83.5. I like the under on this one. Cleveland right now is the fifth best run defense in the league, giving up 282 yards the first 3 games. Zeke didn't break 40 yards last week against Seattle, who's the second best rush defense. Now, that's also because they're also a terrible pass defense, but they actually are really good against the run. So the O line right now in Dallas is banged up. And Cleveland's actually has all year been pretty good against the run. Pro Football Focus has them ranked as the number 1 rush defense in the league. So I think he goes under in this game. Giggs, any other bets that you like this week for this game?
I personally think Dallas is going to win this one. The line's been moving around 3.5 and 4. I like Dallas minus 3.5. I don't like minus 4. If you're looking for player prop bets, I know this sounds cliche. I keep giving you guys anytime touchdown, but I think Zeke will get a touchdown in this game. And if there's Kareem Hunt, I mean, he's not playing. I'm trying to figure this out.
I think he's playing. He's questionable. I think he plays though.
If Kareem Hunt doesn't play, I would just smash the over for receiving and rushing yards for Chubb. I don't care
Everything.
what they are. Yeah, just Chubb goes wild.
I agree. And he's like an absolute must play in FanDuel DFS. Like he's an absolute must play because he's going to go. He would go off. And already right now, Dallas is giving up. I believe it was like third highest. I'd have to double check this, but I believe they're giving up 2.5 yards per rush. That this is before contact. So before contact, they're giving up that against Cleveland, who's probably one of the best, if not the best, run team in the NFL. So you're giving up 2.5 yards before contact to arguably one of the best top 5 running backs in the NFL. Chubb, and I think it goes crazy regardless of Hunt. But I do think this is just a high scoring game that's just back and forth, back and forth. As long as Baker doesn't make mistakes. If Baker can not make mistakes, it'll be a back and forth game. So under 15%, none really. There's nobody in this one. If Baker's still there, I think Baker's a good play if you need a quarterback this week. Cleveland, give it really good, but they should have a lot of play action passes in this one. So I think he'll have some deep shots. So really that's about it. Start sit Odell or Parker. Now this one to me is really close because I love Parker this week so much. So I'm gonna go Parker. It is like so close, but I like Parker a lot. I just think he goes off this week. CD or Robert Anderson. This is another one that's really tough for me. Who would you go, Gig? CD or Robbie?
I think I'd go Robbie. I really like that matchup, and I think CD, he's a very good receiver, but there's a lot of mouths to feed. He definitely could have a great game, but I think that might be a safer floor with Robbie Anderson right now with a very high ceiling because he's a boom.
True.
We call him boomer bust, but his floor this year has been good.
Next one would be Hunt or Mike Davis. To me, I'd go Mike Davis just because Hunt's a little banged up, but Hunt should also have a really good game in this one as well. Gallup or Hollywood. I'd go Gallup just because I think Hollywood and them, they don't really play the second half because they're 14-point favorites and they're going to obliterate them. Dalton Schultz or Evan Ingram. To me personally, I'd go Dalton Schultz. I like Dalton Schultz a lot. He's actually been pretty good the past 2 weeks. He's getting involved in this offense. So I like Dalton Schultz, honestly, as a long-term fantasy tight end prospect. Baker or Carson Wentz. To me, I like Baker. I think Baker should have a good game in this one. I hope, because to me, this is kind of like, if he doesn't have a good game, you start to really, really question because this Dallas secondary is terrible, has been awful this year. So I think, Baker needs to have a good game, or he could be on the outside looking in. He still has some time, but really this should be a good game for him. Let's go into our last slate here. Our last slate that we're going to be talking about is Baltimore, Washington, Los Angeles Rams and the Giants, Buffalo, Las Vegas, and Philadelphia for our Sunday night game, Philadelphia and San Francisco. All
Yo,
right. Yeah.
we're still able to insert, like cut it and then go again, right?
Yeah.
Like
Why was that?
video.
Yeah.
I wanted, I want to add something about the Dallas game.
Well, yeah. Go ahead. We haven't really moved on, so go ahead.
So Dallas, Cleveland, it's right now -3.5 Dallas. The over under 56.5. I actually like the under. Call me crazy. I actually like the under on this. I think looking at all the scores on this slate, like I think these are two teams that could wind up running the ball a lot. And I like, as far as OBJ, Devontae Parker, I'd go Devontae Parker because I just have this feeling that I don't know why. I like Baker Mayfield more than Wentz, but I just don't think the passing game is going to get humming this game. It's a good matchup. It's a good matchup, but like for me, this is almost a trap game because when I first saw it, I was like, Dallas should smoke them. And I looked into it. I'm like, maybe this could be a good game. They could maybe control the tempo with Nick Chubb because Dallas's defense doesn't look that good. And then I got to thinking, well, if they're just running the ball down each other's throat or running the ball the most of this game, maybe he doesn't hit its over under. The only reason I would like the over is because Dallas is so high powered, but I'm not convinced yet that Cleveland can put up points in bunches if Nick Chubb's not getting it going. I don't know if Baker Mayfield's good for 2-3 passing touchdowns yet. Just haven't seen it.
No, that's a really good point because honestly, I think that's when I looked at it as well, and it's the highest scoring game. I think that there's other games that should be higher scoring than this one because I do think that's right now. If you don't have Chubb, I think you have to hope he controls this game, and if he does control the game, then it's going to be a slower paced game than what people expect. Because I think if Dallas kind of gets going, I think that they can take advantage of Cleveland's secondary. So I do think it's a good call. I do. I agree with you where the over under on this one. I probably bet the under, just because I do think it's a little bit. It's not as prolific as other people think, like some other games on the slot should be. So I agree with that. All right. So let's continue on with the last slate here. And that was Baltimore, Washington, Los Angeles Rams, the Giants, Buffalo, Las Vegas, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. So some quick updates for this one. So right now, Deshaun Jackson's out. Peters is out. Alshon Jeffrey's out. And actually, Whiteside, is it JJ? I forget what his name is. He's actually looking doubtful right now, so he's not going to play. So you literally have nobody And I feel bad for Wentz. He hasn't looked that good this year, but he also has nobody to throw the ball to. Nobody. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. So Baltimore versus Washington. Oh, and San Francisco. Mostert's out. Jimmy G's out. So, and you have actually Debo's playing, and so is Kittle. So we'll see how many snaps Debo plays. We'll see. Baltimore versus Washington. Favorite players for me, Logan Thomas. Like I said earlier, if McLaurin doesn't go, Logan Thomas has actually been playing out of slot a decent amount. Now it's not a good matchup by any means, but they should be down 14 and a half underdogs, right? So this is going to be a game they're getting blown out, or maybe the line move. We'll talk about that a lot, like tell me in a minute here. But Logan Thomas should have plenty of opportunity. A team that's going to be playing from behind, they got to throw the ball. He's gotten a lot of targets right now. I didn't put it in here, but I believe 24 targets, tied with McLaurin. So he's seen a lot of targets. It hasn't turned into fantasy production, but he's caught 4 passes in each game this year. And right now at 4,900 with no McLaurin, that's looking like. Hopefully they just throw the ball a ton, which they should be here. I don't think he's that bad of a play as a tight end. Baltimore's defense, I mean, for me, they're somebody I like because they should just destroy Haskins. They should harass him all game, turn him over. This is not a good spot. If like Baltimore for me is the defensive play this week. Just get them. They're gonna destroy Washington. They're nice and safe. Favorite bet right now. This one I'm a little bit of homer on because he should be. I don't understand why Gus Edwards doesn't look that bad, but give Dobbins the ball, dude. Like Dobbins 30 and a half over. I truly think this is one of those games where we saw it a lot last year where Baltimore gets up by so much at halftime, and their starters don't even go back in like halfway through the third quarter. They just are done. So I think this is kind of the same game where he goes out there, he's going to rush one of these two. The only reason I picked him is because he's at 30 and a half, where I believe Gus Edwards is right around 40. So I decided to go with Dobbins just because of that reason. So I'm going to take the over on that. And I'll let Giggs. What are your favorite bets on this game?
All right. Well, the boys in the desert have this at minus 14 for Baltimore. Money line's at minus 1,000 odds. I think Baltimore's a slam dunk to win this game, but I wouldn't bet the money line. Over under 45 and a half. I think Baltimore's going to play really pissed off, so I could see them just smashing Washington in the ground. Washington's offense hasn't looked terrible this year. They don't have a lot of playmakers, but somehow they've managed to at least put some points up in just about every game they've been in. So if Baltimore puts up like more than 30, I can see Washington getting 16, 17 on the board. So Baltimore minus 14, I think they can cover it. That might be a little too high for my liking because it started at minus 13 and a half. But I do like the over in that game. I think Lamar Jackson could also run wild. So anytime touchdown Lamar Jackson, and that probably will be decent odds. It'll probably be plus, only because it's a quarterback rushing.
Right. Those are some good lines. Yes, some good bets here, and then a couple of 15% owned guys here. So Gus Edwards, for me, if you're somebody that's desperate for a running back spot, he should be, like I said, a guy that's going to be heavily involved, not heavily involved, but decently involved in this game for a guy who's I think he's like 2% owned right now, according to Yahoo. So he's definitely going to be there. So he's somebody who might have, 10 carries, 40 some yards and a touchdown. That's the best thing that you could hope for. And he's somebody that's definitely there. So if you absolutely need a running back this week, if you're so depleted, he's somebody that's probably there and wouldn't be that bad of a play. Dontrell Inman. This is somebody, if McLaurin's out last week, he had 6 targets, 2 touchdowns, I believe on 3 or 4, I think 4 grabs. So if McLaurin's not there, they're going to be playing from behind all game. So they're going to have to throw the ball. He's somebody that's not that bad of a play, is definitely available in your leagues. When I say not that bad, just put in context, if you are so desperate, you need some help, right? The last one here would be J.D. McKissick. Running backs are incredibly difficult to find at less than 15% that actually have a chance. He has a decent chance to be involved in this game. They're going to be playing from behind. He's a pass-catching back, so he should be involved in the pass game. He had 3 catches for 35 yards last week. when they're playing behind against Cleveland. So they should be playing against Baltimore behind all game, in my opinion. So he should be involved in the passing game as well. Starter sits Ingram or Gaskin. For me, Gaskin, just because I honestly I think this is just a game that Baltimore just goes and pummels the shit out of Washington. They don't play the second half. I think it's going to be a bad game. And Gaskin, I guess maybe Ingram in a standard league where Gaskin PPR definitely Gaskin. Marquise Brent, well, Hollywood, I like to call him Hollywood, or Landry. Who would you pick for that one, Giggs?
I'd go Hollywood just because I think they're going to put up a bunch of points.
And Jeff Wilson or Antonio Gibson? For me, I like Jeff Wilson this week. Gibson,
Wilson.
yeah, I like Gibson, but they need to get him involved because he does look really good. Like if I was watching his highlights and stuff, and he just looks good. He looks like an NFL player, and I don't know what they're doing, but they just need to give him the ball. Just give him the ball, dude. Give him the ball. Anyways, any other that you want to talk about from this game, Gigs?
I like J.K. Dobbins in this game a lot. So
At
I
some
think
point, they need to get him
I
going.
might stack the over rushing yards with anytime touchdown and
That'd
above,
be a good one.
and then I'm a big fan of alternate spread. So if you use FanDuel Sportsbook and you go to same game parlay, you have the option to do alternate spread. And I think Baltimore -6.5 is a really safe bet. So Dobbins over rushing yards, anytime touchdown with -6.5 Baltimore.
All right, let's go to our next game, and that is the Rams versus the Giants. So let's talk about, in this game I really don't like as well. Let's talk about some of the favorite plays. For me, I just have one, and that's Henderson, a number one runner on Pro Football Focus. McVay has already said he's earned the lead spot. And this is an offensive line that should have a good advantage in this one, and they're 13.5-point favorites. So somebody who should be heavily involved in this game while they're up running the ball, I like Henderson. He's about my only really play that I really like in this game. I think obviously, for Rams players, you're starting them, but in terms of the Giants, they just have not looked good at all, and it's really hard to trust them. I know that maybe you're in a spot where you have to play some of them, but just good luck because they just do not look good right now. They've also played some hard defenses, but at the same time, you gotta do something. Gotta do a little bit of something. So let's talk about some of the favorite bets for me. Me personally, Jared Goff, 280 passing, 280.5. I think it's projected to be a blowout, so I like the under on this one just because I don't think he has to pass the ball this much. I think Henderson's going to have a big game, so I don't think he's going to have to throw the ball. And 280 is a lot of passing yards. Could he get there? For sure. But I think it's going to be a little bit under. I think he might be at like 250, so I like this passing. I like the under on this one. Under 15% owned. I'm sorry, there's nobody in this one. Nobody. So I can't give you any advice. Look elsewhere. And then I'll do this last part, and then I'll let Giggs go ahead. Any Giants players? Would you rather? I don't. Once again, I don't like any of the Giants. Maybe you're starting Slayton just because he's a big play waiting to happen type of guy. But the other ones, it's hard to trust even like Evan Ingram right now. Golden Tate with Shepard out. This offense just looks terrible. Any other maybe Freeman is a decent play as well. But let's talk about some of these other guys real quick. Woods or Fuller? For me, Fuller. I like Fuller a lot this week. Cooper Kupp or Parker? Parker. Henderson or Montgomery? Henderson. What about you, Giggs?
I think you nailed all of those. I mean, the wide receivers for the Rams is too risky because it might be a blowout. If they do need him, they'll definitely dice him up. But
Mm-hmm.
I think Henderson's the safe play, and this is going to be my kooky pick. But I kind of like Golden Tate if Slayton's being shadowed by Ramsey, with no Sterling Shepard and Ingram just like completely missing from action. This guy's just I don't know where he's at this year, but he's not on the football field. Golden Tate, I like him this week. I think he can have like 4 or 5 catches, maybe over 60 yards.
Not a bad one. I like some of these lines. I haven't. This game I didn't really take that much time looking at the lines just because it's ugly.
The
It's
lines are
ugly.
it's Rams minus 13.5, and it's minus 900 just for money line. The
Yeah.
over under is 48.5. The Rams could put 35 points up on them at the
Right.
half. So who knows? It's a shit one. The next one's a
Yeah.
shit one too.
Yeah. I don't really
I'm
like
gonna
this
let
one that
you.
much either.
I'm gonna let you take care of that Philly San Fran.
Yeah, oh, that one. That one was going to be a good one. That's ugly. All right. Let's talk about the Buffalo Vegas game here. So some of my favorite plays, like Diggs. Okay, Diggs for me is a top 5 play this week, especially in DraftKings, DFS, FanDuel. I love Diggs this week just because John Brown's been dealing with he practiced full and he actually doesn't even have he wasn't on the injury report. But Diggs for me, he's gonna be matched up against Mullen, but he moves a lot around a lot, so he's gonna kind of see all these guys in the secondary. And the secondary for the Raiders hasn't been that good this year. It's like if you look at it football focus wise, and then also see some of the stats that they've given up, they haven't really even played that anybody either. You playing New Orleans, who were without Michael Thomas, and they look terrible, right? Then you go and play uh, New England, so they don't really have that many guys, except obviously Edelman. But other than that, they're not a team that throws the ball a lot. They threw it against Seattle because they had to, but last week they ran the ball really effectively. So it's kind of they look a little bit better than what they are on paper. Um, but I think this is just a big game for Diggs. Like he's going to be an absolutely stud in this game. He's going to yeah, for me, he's one of my favorite DFS plays this week. Another guy that I really like and find myself playing a lot as well is Darren Waller. Remember, Mike Gesicki just tore this defense up, the Buffalo's defense, for 800 yards, right? Eight catches on 11 targets for 130 yards and the touchdown. So I think this is with no receiving options really other than Hunfro or Renter Hunfro, right? You have Waller in there. They're gonna have to throw the ball to somebody in this game. So I like Waller. I think he's gonna have a good game in this game. Next person I'll talk about is Renfro. Hunfro. I think I was saying Hunfro. Renfro. Sorry. Jeez. Uh, Buffalo secondary is leaking in the slot. But this is something interesting that kind of worries me a little bit. Is that last week he actually didn't play that many snaps in the slot. It was um, Nelson Aguilar. Nelson Aguilar played 25 plays out of the slot last week. Buffalo right now, Teron Johnson has given up 18 for 18 on 22 targets, 18 catches on 22 targets for 184 yards through the first 3 games of the season with a catch rate of 81% and 10.2 yards per attempt on him this year. Not good. This is not good. So Nelson Aguilar might be like this little sneaky play where if you absolutely need help, he's playing more slot or snaps out of the slot than Renfro is right now against a not very good slot corner. So if you need some help, it's some desperate help. Aguilar's really not that bad of a pick, and he should absolutely be there for you. Bet of the game for me personally, Diggs 64.5. I like the over because I just think this is one of these games where he's already gone over this number twice this year. The only time he didn't was against last week when they played the Rams, and the Rams actually have a pretty good pass defense in Ramsey, and I forget what the other cornerback is on the top of my head, but actually both of them are pretty good. So I like him this week to go over against a secondary that's not very good. And would you rather? There's just 2 of them because I don't really like this game. This game that you're playing your studs in this game. You're playing Jacobs. You're playing Waller. You're playing Diggs. If you have Brown, this is one Brown or Scantling. Brown. I keep seeing this question on Twitter. Brown or Scantling? Brown. Like Scantling. I'm sorry. Maybe he'll go off this week and I'll look like an idiot. But Renfro or Ayuk, Brandon Ayuk. For me, this one's a little tough too because now you have Kittle coming back and also Debo, so they're going to be a little bit more involved. How much with Debo, I don't know, but Renfro, I'd probably go Renfro just because there's. All right, let's go into the next game. That's the Los Angeles Chargers versus Tampa Bay. All right. So for favorite plays of the game. Now this, remember, I'm going to keep saying this. I'm not talking about your guys that, we know we're going to do well, right? Michael Thomas should do well in this game, although it's a tough matchup, but he should do well. Keenan Allen should do well. He's getting a obscene amount of targets right now with Herbert playing. So these are guys that, you know, under the radar kind of. Right now, OJ Howard and Gronk. I do like them in this game because they get Kaiser White, linebacker, really bad in coverage. And this is also good for Ronald Jones as well, but I'm going to talk about him in a minute here. They have a 49% matchup advantage according to Pro Football Focus. Kaiser's averaging 83 catch percentage right now allowed, and a 21% target share, third highest for tight ends in the league right now. 0.38% or 0.38 yards per route, fourth highest for tight ends allowed for tight ends this week. And this is also, like I said, already benefits Rojo because right now he's also covering backs out of the backfield, and it's been quite ugly for him. So the next person I'm going to talk about is Rojo, Ronald Jones. This is his last chance, I think. Last chance to show if he's the guy, because if he doesn't have a really good game, which I really don't think he's that bad to begin with. He's pretty good. Fournette's all right as well. But I think this is the last chance to really prove he's the guy. Tampa Bay has a 26% run advantage in this game. Should be, heavily involved in this game with Fournette out in the passing game along with the running game. Had 19 touches week one with Fournette not playing that much. So I like the volume in this game. I also think he's a really good DFS play as well. I think he's priced at like 5,600. Let me just double check this real quick. Yes, 5,600 on FanDuel. So I like him in FanDuel this week for the volume that he's going to get. My favorite bets of the game right now, I like OJ Howard over. Like, I don't feel like I kind of want to shower after this, right? Over 23.5 receiving yards. It's at minus 110. Gronk's at 28.5, so I probably would have went with Gronk, but since OJ Howard's a little bit lower, I think they see about the same target share. And really, he's already put this up twice this season, over 23.5, in a plus matchup. So I like this bet to begin. Like I like this bet going forward. And also one other thing, there's not that many player prop bets. That's what I want to kind of focus on right now, just because of all the uncertainty in the league right now. So they aren't putting them all out. So there'll be more tomorrow. So I'll kind of go over that a little bit more tomorrow morning as well. I'm going to post a quick little video. But going on, players to keep an eye on: Scotty Miller, no Godwin, practice full at Friday's practice. Tom Brady kind of talks him up, so I think he's somebody that if you're struggling at wide receiver and you need somebody to play, he's certainly somebody that is decent. This one is kind of a lower scoring one for the slate. What's the over under? Do you know, Gigs, for this one?
The over under for Tampa is 42.5, and I like the over.
42.5. See, yeah, that's not a very high scoring game. What about you, Gigs? Favorite bet? Is that your favorite bet?
Yeah, I definitely like the over in this game. I think Tampa can also cover 7. Even without Godwin, I think they're going to move the ball pretty easily, actually. I think Ronald Jones is a sneaky play on DFS this week for FanDuel, DraftKings.
Mm-hmm.
That'd pretty much do it for that game. I'm not interested in the money line for Tampa because it's minus 335, actually. So I just like the over on that game. And if you're looking for a player prop bet, anytime touchdown for Mike Evans, and then that's probably it. Just that.
Okay. And I do want to talk about him as well as Keenan Allen. I like Keenan Allen a lot this week. And FanDuel right now, he is priced at 6,900. So he's in my opinion, a pretty good play for somebody who's seeing, like I talked about, a gross target share right now. Past 2 weeks, I believe it's right around 30 targets he's seen. So I like Keenan Allen in this game a lot. A couple quick start or sits. So would you rather OJ Howard or Logan Thomas? For me, this one's tough because Logan Thomas right now could be like the only receiving option. Sure, it's against Baltimore, but Baltimore has actually been pretty bad against the tight end position right now. I believe they're giving up the 4th most to tight ends this year. So I think I'd go Logan Thomas here. Ronald Jones or Devin Singletary. With Zach Moss back, I like Ronald Jones, his workload in this game. Joshua Kelly or J.K. Dobbins. This one's tough because, like I said, this game should be kind of a blowout here in Baltimore. So I think J.K. Dobbins hopefully gets some work, but it might be Gus Edwards. So I'd probably go with Joshua Kelly here, but it's really close. Scotty Miller, T. Higgins, Giggs, who would you pick?
I like T. Higgins. I think Cincinnati wants to get Burrow and him acquainted. I think they're just about done with AJ Green. I think he's still going to get targets, but Burrow seems to really gravitate towards Higgins, and he's a TD machine, it looks like. So I like Higgins this week.
Keenan Allen or Mike Davis? This is like a flex play. Boy, I like running backs more, so I'm always going to probably pick a running back over a wide receiver, although Keenan Allen's looks so good, but I'd probably go Mike Davis just because he's also seen an obscene amount of targets as a running back as well. Brady or Bridgewater? I'd probably go Bridgewater because I think that game is going to be pretty high scoring in Arizona. Uh, well, not in Arizona. I believe it's in Carolina, but they're playing Arizona. Justin Herbert or Carson Wentz? I'd probably go, oh boy. If you had to pick one, probably Carson Wentz because actually his line's not that good, but San Francisco has also got decimated on the defensive line. So I'd probably go Carson Wentz, but I would not. We have Philadelphia versus San Francisco. Favorite plays of this game right now? Mostert, or not Mostert, he's out. So no Mostert. I like Jeff Wilson in this game because no Mostert. And to me, McKinnon last week got hurt, right? He hurt his rib. I think he's healthy for this game. I don't even think he was on the injury report. So he's going to play, obviously. But I think it kind of reminded maybe Shanahan, like, oh, McKinnon's actually been hurt for like majority of his career, right? So maybe he might say, okay, we got to get Wilson a little bit more involved here. So I think Wilson's going to be more involved. And he just like this. We've talked about it before. San Francisco just pumps out running backs, right? It doesn't matter who's back there. They're going to be good. Like Shanahan's just a genius with his play calling, with his scheme, how he gets motion going and all these kind of different things. So defense can't figure it out. So I like Wilson a lot this week. I think he's going to be a very good play, especially in season-long leagues. Like right now with all the players that are not going to be playing in this game, he's somebody, if you have him, start him. I think he's going to be a good play this week. And another person is Greg Ward, right? I say this all the time. Who else? Who else in Philadelphia? Like, who else is going to catch the ball? Last week, 8 of 11. 8 catches on 11 targets for 72 yards and a touchdown. So, who else? Whiteside's going to be out. There's nobody else. Nobody else. So I'd play. He's not that bad if you're desperate at wide receiver and need somebody to play. I don't think he's that bad. Even on DFS, I don't think he's really that bad because they're going to have to throw the ball. I think they're going to be down. They're going to have to throw it. And honestly, they have a pretty good advantage in terms of offensive line, defensive line matchup because there's nobody like they've lost a lot of the guys San Francisco on defensive line, so they're not getting very good pressure. Their pressure rate right now, I don't know if I have it. I was looking at it, but the pressure rate's not very good right now. So Philadelphia might actually have a little bit of time to throw the football. My favorite bet right now is Ward 48.5. I like him to go over in this game because, like I said, there's nobody else. Nobody else to throw the football to. And I think they're going to have to throw it to somebody. And I think it's going to be him because he saw 11 targets last week. So I like Ward 48.5. Some of the deep dives. Ward, if he's in your league, go pick him up. Jeff Wilson, if he's still there somehow, go pick him up. Nick Mullins. I think he's a decent fill-in in this one. Last week passed for over 340 yards. So he's a good play this week. And he gets George Kittle back. That was without George Kittle. So I think if you're desperate at the quarterback position, maybe you're a Patrick Mahomes and it's 2-quarterback league, and maybe you had like somebody like Ben Roethlisberger. Totally possible. Need somebody to fill in? Mullins. I'd go ahead and fill him in there. I think he's going to have a decent game. And would you rather McKinnon or Jeff Wilson? You got the two going against each other. It could totally be possible where you have both of them. Me personally, I guess I'm a little bit of a homer, but I like Wilson because I think he's going to be more involved than what he was last week, carry-wise, catch-wise, than McKinnon. And McKinnon at any point could get hurt. Anybody could get hurt at any point, but especially McKinnon, he's been hurt so much. So I like Wilson. Foles or Mullins, honestly, I like Mullins a little bit more than Foles just because Foles has a tough matchup. Wentz or Herbert, I'd probably go Wentz. I don't think this is that bad of a spot for Wentz. Honestly, I think he's going to have a decent game here. And Herbert, I don't think he's going to have that good of a week this week against Tampa Bay. And then the last one is Ward or Ayuk. I'd probably go Ward because there's nobody else, right? Nobody else. Just beat it over. Nobody else. Come on, man. Nobody else. They need to get somebody for Wentz here. I feel bad for the guy. So, with that being said, that is our week 4 preview heading into tomorrow. What we plan to do tomorrow is we're going to try to go live, okay? We haven't done it yet. We said we were going to try to do it. We might try to go live tomorrow and just talk about the player news that's happening around the league as it happens, and also give you more DFS and bets, especially because bets like player props, they really put them out right before the game because they want to see who exactly is there, who's not there. So there's going to be a lot of player props that are uploaded at that time. So we go over that. Yeah, and remember, if you're enjoying this content, like and subscribe. Let us know, in the comments. What do you think? Maybe we missed somebody. Maybe you think that somebody's not as good as I mostly made it out to be. So let us know. With that being said, thank you all for listening and have a great night.